they're moving in. And the day after they moved in, we found a leak. And interesting enough, we opened the wall behind there, and there's literally a squirrel.
Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset. Quick disclaimer as always, I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney or a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, not telling you or anyone else what to do. The views and opinions expressed in these podcasts are provided for education and informational purposes only and are not necessarily the views of my employer. I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in. All right. Welcome back, Freedom Point podcast listeners. Thank you again for jumping into another episode of the Freedom Point. I'm so glad you're here with us again today. I've got yet another amazing guest, Dr. Mark Smiley. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeremy. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation today. So a little bit on Dr. Mark. He's an emergency medical physician, entrepreneur, and CEO of Beyond Equity Group, where Dr. Smiley empowers physicians, medical leaders, and high net worth individuals to build wealth while promoting health, hope, and affordable housing. Dr. Mark, I'm not really doing your bio a whole lot of justice here, but would love for you to kind of give our listening audience a little bit more, perspective on your journey into real estate, your journey into being a doctor, and, really, what you're primarily focused on today.
Yeah. No, again, thanks for having me, Jeremy. So I am, Beyond Equity Group is a real estate investment company that comes together with doctors, busy professionals, to buy apartment complexes and to improve the lives of tenants, right? And I always like to start there, because we really see that that's what we're doing. So it's improve the lives. So and with a social mission, right? So we want to ensure that we can not only improve housing, but there's an intersection where your health and housing, right, cross path. And so that's kind of really where our mission is. But for me, I'm a husband, I'm a father. As you said, I'm an ER doctor. And it usually starts out by, why would an ER doctor do real estate, right? So I have to take you back a little bit in my journey. So I'm originally from Jamaica, grew up in Brooklyn, New York. My family moved there to get better education for us. But when we moved there, we made just enough money to not qualify for government housing, but not enough to afford quality housing. And so my dad did construction growing up. And so on Saturdays at 7 a.m., I was on a construction site when I was 10 years old with my father, kind of learning. And all of those things have come full circle today, right? So I went to medical school, got my MBA, and I've been personally investing in single family homes for 17 years up to today. And, some of my colleagues saw some of the success that I've been having, and I've done well from that front. But one of the things that we all sort of ran into is how much time it takes to actually do the work itself, and deal with what we call the tenants and toilets, right? And so we wanted to do that, but at the same time have an impact and continue to do that, right? So most of my colleagues see medicine and the folks that we work with as we have an opportunity to serve people. And so we love doing that through medicine, because you can make a great income, but you're serving at the same time. And so how can we look at real estate as a tool to, one, allow us to continue to serve, but to make, great incomes for our families at the same time. And so to do it where we're all not extremely and super busy and distracted from the important things, right? That's family, that's volunteering and doing all those things. So we built Beyond Equity Group as a company that serves our investors to do those things. And so I can get into a lot of the impact side of things, but that's essentially what we do.
Yeah, no, I love to hear, kind of your background. I also love to hear, that you kind of learned through your father. So I am kind of curious to know, now that you're, the father of three children, are you also bringing them along on your journey?
So what's amazing? Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things that um, I really am focused on is I want to invest my money and my time into things that I think my children will be proud of, right? And so real estate is one of those things, right? So, for example, even when we did this on some of our single family homes, so every year we bring our tenants gifts, so Christmas gifts. So I bring the children out to bring them things, right? To show them that one, our tenants are the ones that are really creating value for us, right? And we're essentially a guide for those folks, right? Can we give them a quality housing? And can we maintain that and everyone wins? And so I want to show my children that that's important. And so, yes, absolutely, I bring them along, right? So, at the time when I was even, my wife would tell you getting a lot more involved in some of the renovations than I should have. I have photos and videos of my children inside like the properties itself. So it's actually, we'll keep that stuff as a memory. But yeah, so I really value um, educate my children. The construction and all these things are good, but it's really about caring for people. And I think if you have that mindset, then I think you will do really well in life.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And the interesting thing about what you're saying, and this really, resonates with me a lot, and more than likely a lot that listen to this episode as well. I mean, you're really, very tenant focused, right? You're very much of the mindset that you're here to serve, serve the tenant base, serve the community, improving their lives. There's an emphasis on it being kind of a social mission. So I really appreciate that perspective. And, that's obviously a great lesson to be teaching, our children as well, in terms of if you want to be, successful in life, and make a true lasting impact on others, the mindset needs to be all about, serving others, right? And you're obviously doing that, in terms of the, investments that you're choosing to make, both as an active and it sounds like also as a passive investor. So really appreciate your perspective there. I know that you grew up in an underserved neighborhood, Mark, and that clearly shaped your perspective. How has that experience influenced your passion for combining real estate with community impact?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, no. So the company that my dad did construction for, they built 3,000 homes for families in Brooklyn at the time. And in fact, there was a church that came together and a lot of different players at the table who came together to do that. So that gave me that understanding that one, people and teams can come together to truly care about their community and build products or have products that serve. But at the same time, it has to be an investable product, right? It has to be something that we call sustainable. So um, today, as we focus on real estate, we're focused on multifamily real estate itself because one, it allows our investors to invest but not have to spend a lot of the time, right? Taken away from their family, et cetera, doing that. But at the same time, there are so many things that you can do in a community once you are a part of those assets. Like, for example, so one of the properties that we've done with, Rise 48, for example, right? When they acquire a property, they did a tenant like back to school backpack giveaway, right? And so one of the things that my team and I did was, in fact, we brought our children there. We went along to serve, right? To say, okay, can we be a part of giving back to those folks? Then we're also building out some capacity because we started a nonprofit arm as well, where we're working with medical groups who are interested in investing into these properties, but at the same time they want to have a presence in the community. So we're going to be organizing sort of wellness sort of retreats at the apartment complex, where we'll bring physicians to the apartment complex for tenants, and at the same time we'll talk to tenants about financial literacy, right? So there's so many different ways I think we can serve people. And I think ultimately this makes for a better tenant base, right? So this really brings, I think, great returns for our investors as well, right? So when tenants feel as if you care for them and they understand and you're giving them tools to improve their ability to afford, then everyone wins at the table. So absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I could see how that would be a real big competitive, advantage that you would have, over others that are probably, treating tenants like they're, merely transactions, where you're laser focused on, treating your tenants, and really interacting with them in a meaningful, genuine, and an authentic way, and providing them, true, life impact, life values, life lessons, life education, those types of things. So I know that many physicians, probably including yourself, before you kind of, got educated in the space. I know physicians primarily focus on maybe more traditional investment type paths like stocks and, retirement accounts. Why do you believe that multifamily real estate should be an essential part of physicians' investment portfolios?
Yeah. So I think there's so many different fronts from a multifamily like real estate investment standpoint. One, again, it allows you to, again, when we syndicate, right, we come together as a group of folks who who there's a team in the background that's doing a lot of the work, right? And so then you can partner up with institutional level operators that have the experience and the track record to do this. So when they show you the projections and the business plan on what they're going to execute with the asset, you can be confident in knowing that this will happen, right? And so this is something that you're essentially joining a team when you're making this investment, and you get to pick those things right up front, right? And so you have more, I think, control as an investor because you're really diving into the numbers, and you can look at and see the returns that you're going to get. So I like it for that standpoint. And then when it comes to, there's so many things from a multifamily perspective versus like a single family home, right? So if you have one single family home, right, you spend a lot of time, right, being involved with it, even if you have a property manager. But if something happens to the cash flow that's being generated from that one asset, all of it goes away. And so that's very different from multifamily real estate because there's so many different units that covers, unexpected things, right? And I can tell you, I can share some stories about, real things that has happened to my wife and I, even just a week ago, right? There's a family that we're using our house to. We've made it into affordable housing, and so they're moving in, and the day after they moved in, we found a leak. And interesting enough, we opened the wall behind there, and there's literally a squirrel that's died behind one of the plumbing, and essentially like bit into the pipes, and now it's leaking, and so we have to open walls. But now I have that tenant that I truly have to like figure out. Okay, do I need to move them to another like a hotel, and how do we take care of all those things, right? So that all of those things fall on you as a physician or a busy professional if you're going to go to a single family route. And so there's so many different values into like going into multifamily.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've got that story. I've got plenty of my own, and some folks have maybe heard me say this before, but when we were in the active fix and flip, world, which is now probably almost 15 years ago, I remember, multiple times walking into some very, distressed single family homes where you'd find anything from, marijuana labs to meth labs to stripper poles and anything in between, right? So just very interesting, living situations and conditions that we came across in that space, which really caused me, to question: is that the right types of activities that I should be focusing, my time, effort, and energy on? Which eventually led us, more on the passive side than on the active side.
I'm Zach Haptonstall, CEO and co-founder of Rise 48 Equity. Our goal is to help you protect and grow your wealth by investing in large multifamily apartment buildings. We do all the work as far as sourcing these large apartment buildings from the brokers, doing all of the on-site management with our vertically integrated property management company, doing all the renovations with our vertically integrated construction company. We completely rebrand the exteriors. We will renovate the interiors to our full platinum level scope, which increases the value of the asset to get that profit margin for the investor. If you'd like to learn about how you can partner with us on these exciting opportunities, and go to our website and set up a call with our team.
So I think if I'm reading you correctly, Dr. Mark, when it comes to the physician community that you're serving, really what they're leveraging in a relationship with you is they're leveraging your time, your experience, your education, your track record, your relationships, right, with others in the space that are best in class. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, in medicine, um, we see it as a team, right? In order to care for a patient, there's a physician, there's a nurse, there are lab techs, all these folks that come together to allow you to do what you do. And then sometimes when we leave the walls of medicine, we forget about that, right? And so real estate is it's a team sport. If you truly want to go far, right, you're going to go together and save your time doing so. So real estate is very similar, right? Again, so it's about me and my team. So when we are looking at assets to bring to our physicians to invest in, we're doing a lot of work in the background, building relationships, ensuring that the team that we are partnering with that finds us these properties and are running the business plan, that they have the same mindset and they have the same values and they have the track records. And so we are doing that work up front, and then we come together again as a team, right, in order to execute it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that you're a husband, you're a father of three, you're a physician, you're an entrepreneur. You've got all these different hats that you're wearing, right? As many of us are. How do you balance these roles while staying true to your kind of overall mission of making an impact?
Yeah. Again, it comes back to the team sport. So in order to do this, right, it's there's only 24 hours in a day. And I think one, you have to be efficient at what you do, but two, you have to understand that you can't do everything. And so for me, my family, my children are at the top of the things that I do, right? So my goal over time, and that's one of the things that I talk to my physicians about the ability to have passive income is, can you reduce like the amount of hours that you put into medicine over time, right? And so a lot of my physicians and even myself, I tell folks I may never quit medicine because I truly feel like it's a calling, right? But can I do it at a volume that allows me to be there for my children, for my wife, and then have time to like be in a community and do some volunteer opportunities. And my wife and I were going on a mission trip in a few months, right? So passive real estate allows us to live that, I think, that lifestyle that we really think about. And this is it's a game plan to do that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I would suspect that the only way to make this possible, okay, is the individual, needs to really have clarity. They need to have focus and they really need to understand, what their why is, right? If they're looking for, more bandwidth in their life, are there certain types of investments that they can make where they can start to almost buy back their time in a way or invest into something that allows them to maybe have work be optional to some respect, but maybe it provides that investor with some comfort that they don't have to keep grinding out 60-hour per week, time and really trading what time they have left for additional dollars or, continued cash flow. Does that resonate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I remember the first time when I invested passively myself, and, I was on a busy shift and working, and I received a message that said, like, I had a distribution that came in. And, it's something that it just really dawned on me that one, um, I didn't have to be at work for that to happen, right? And so that is one of the things that is, absolutely, that case, right? You are essentially allowing yourself to have the freedom to not be tied to your job, and so then that opens up a whole host of different things that you can start to think about doing in your life, right? Right. When it comes to doing mission trips and doing things in the community, it just changes how you calculate your day to day.
Yeah, makes total sense. So for physicians and medical professionals who feel they don't have the time or the knowledge to invest in real estate, what practical steps would you recommend for them to get started?
Yeah. So it's all about investing in yourself. I really do believe that. I think one, becoming educated, I think is an important thing, right? So there's so many resources to learn from about like passive investing overall, and then leaning towards like multifamily, like passive investing. So that's the first thing, and then I think it's the second part is you have to. It's a relationship game, right? It is building a relationship with the the teams that have a similar mindset that you do have, and ensuring that they have your values and your goals in front of all the things that they do. So I think one, it's meeting the right folks and being educated around the space. I think that if we can learn medicine, we can definitely learn passive investing. 100%.
Yeah, and I know that, the knowledge and the education is there. Is there any specific kind of maybe, mindset shifts that are critical as well for that learner to go through to get to the point in which they feel, comfortable, making an investment as a passive investor into real estate versus just, stocking all of their, cash away in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds?
Yeah, yeah. So, like, ultimately, as a passive investor, you're investing in yourself, right? The stock market, I think it's great for some things, right? But you have to ask yourself, is your goal to make money when you retire, or is your goal to have options for today? And so that's one of the mindset that I try to work with my physicians around is, you know, what are your goals? And you'll tend to see that some of their goals align around family and time off and freedom. Yet the stock market and all these things, it really doesn't give you that passive income for you to be able to shift that way. And so when we sit down and really realize, okay, what are our goals for today? And there's so many, they start to realize that, yeah, it sort of makes sense that outside of the traditional stocks, et cetera, I do need some passive income today for that.
Yeah, makes total sense. At this point, I usually like to ask, what's next on your bucket list, either personally or professionally. But I'm gonna load this one up for you. I would love to hear about where you're going on your missions trip in a few months.
Yeah. So, again, family is really important for me. And so my wife, myself, and so we have a 10-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old son, and we have an 18-month-old. So the 18-month-old is going to stay back, but we're going to bring the kids and we're going to Costa Rica. And so my children are in Spanish. So they speak Spanish fluently because that's most of what they are learning in school. So they're in a Spanish immersion. And so we're bringing them there to Costa Rica and they're going to just love on people, right? That's the goal in that. And then me as a physician, I'll do some medicine thing on the side. And so we're really excited about them deep diving into Spanish but at the same time serving. So I love to again, just like how we kind of look at real estate to say, can we invest but have a purpose in doing so? I see everything in life the same way, right? Can I achieve more with one thing? So they're going to learn Spanish and serve at the same time in Costa Rica. So we're excited.
That's great. Well, I'm sure there'll be a great impact, that you'll be able to leave behind, with the community of people that you serve in Costa Rica. But I also want to say I've personally been involved in missions work myself. And it seems like the greater impact is the one that actually is made on my own self, as opposed to the people, that I'm ultimately there, to serve.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, you always leave, I think, better than when you went. So 100%.
That's great. Well, I'll look forward to hearing more about that trip when you return. Mark, is there one or two different ways that our listening audience can learn more about you, to get connected with you offline, et cetera?
Yeah. So you can go to our website, beyondequitygroup.com, and you can message us that way. You can email me personally. I'm an open book with things. I love to share education with our investors. So Smiley at beyond-homes.com. And then you can find me, Mark Smiley, on LinkedIn and as well on Facebook.
Great. Well, we'll put those links in the show notes for the episode. Really appreciate, the tremendous value that you brought us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jeremy. Thank you for all that you do.
Of course. And listening audience, thank you again for joining another episode of The Freedom Point. We look forward to having you join us on the next episode.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.